Hi, welcome to Criminally Creative, a podcast about my various creative endeavors. Today is Sunday, November 25th. It is the end of the Thanksgiving weekend here in the United States, and this is episode 10. My name is Susan. I'm your host. You can find me on Ravelry as Legal Eagle and on Instagram as Criminally Creative Podcast. So this is episode 10, y'all. I can't believe that I have done this 10 times. It's taken me about 7 months to get there, but at least I'm still going. I wasn't sure when I started if I would do this once or twice or what. But if you've been here since the beginning, I appreciate you sticking around. If you're new, I appreciate you checking me out. And hopefully there'll be at least 10 more and maybe quicker than 7 months, but we'll see. I do have a group on Ravelry, which is Criminally Creative Podcast, and I do have an introduction thread there. And I was very remiss last episode because Kristen had introduced herself in that thread, and I forgot to mention it last episode. So thank you, Kristen. Kristen is Kristen on Ravelry, Christen. She is half of the Queen City Yarns dyers. She also has a podcast of her own, which is the Queen City Dying to Knit podcast. So check her out. She is the mother of 2 young children and does a yarn business and does a lot of knitting. I don't know how she does as much knitting as she does with 2 young children at home, but thank you, Kristen, for watching and for introducing yourself. And since the last episode, we've had someone else introduce themselves. Silver Luna 2112 has introduced herself. She says her given name is Jessica, but everybody calls her Silver. Silver, I appreciate you introducing yourself as well. She also has a podcast, which is, I have to look at this, Silver's Dreamland podcast. I have not yet had a chance to check that out, but I do plan to do so. So if you're looking for a new podcast, I'd suggest that you check her out as well. But Silver, thank you for introducing yourself. She says that she does some gaming and some writing in addition to her knitting and crocheting. I think she said crocheting. She did say cross-stitching because that's something else I dabble in a little bit. But anyway, so if you are new or even if you're not new, obviously most of you have not gone over and introduced yourself. I know there's not a ton of you out there yet, but if you are watching, I really would appreciate if you would go to the introductions thread in the Ravelry group and introduce yourself. I also do create a thread for, excuse me, create a thread for each episode, and that is also where you can find any show notes, which essentially is just links to the projects and the patterns that I talk about, and if anything else that I could possibly link to that I talk about. So if you're looking for show notes, that's the group to go to. Again, if you want to contact me, you can always message me on Ravelry. I am Legal Eagle. You can message me on Instagram, which may take me a little longer to see, or if you really want to say something long and wordy, you can email me at criminallycreativepodcast@gmail.com. So, just a little bit of hearsay. It was Thanksgiving on Thursday, and my husband and I went to my parents' house, which is about an hour and a half away. My brother and his family were there, and of course my mother fixed more than enough food to feed all of us 3 times. But it was a nice, relaxing day, just hanging out with family. My brother's family has been, unfortunately, really sick. They just can't catch a break. So it was just a very low-key day of hanging out and chatting with each other and eating good food. And then we came home. And the rest of the weekend, I have largely been relaxing, sleeping late every morning, staying up too late at night, reading and dabbling. I've been doing some knitting. I've gotten a decent amount of Christmas knitting finished. And basically just kicking back and relaxing. We are potentially going to be busy at work the next couple of weeks because the General Assembly is coming back into session on Tuesday, and don't know exactly how long they're going to be there or exactly how busy it's going to be. That's yet to be seen. So I've just kind of been trying to take a mental break this weekend in preparation for what might not be a mentally easy week this week. So let's get on to primarily the knitting, and mostly this week it's going to be verdicts because I have really been trying to get the Christmas knitting knocked out, and then I've got a couple of whips that I have also worked on that I was going to show you, and then we'll talk about a couple other things. So anyway, let's get started with the verdicts. The first verdict is something I showed you in progress last time. I had showed you that I did a brioche hat, and then I had used some of the leftover yarn to do a straight up reversible striped hat, and then I had started another one with yet the leftover yarn that was inverse from the last one. So this is straight up reversible striped hat. The pattern is by Nicole Nehrig, Nehrig. This is done in Cascade 220 Superwash The lighter color is lavender, the darker color is mystic purple. And as I've mentioned before, I'm for the adults in my family, they're all pretty much just getting hats this year. We've decided not to do, for the most part, not to do adult gifts, to just do gifts for the younger kids. So I'm just making a bunch of hats, and enough so that every adult in the family can have a hat. And probably all the kids are getting a hat too. So I forgot to mention I knit this on US 4 3.5 millimeter needles. So in the hat vein, here's another hat that I finished. This pattern is called Color Tracks. I have made this hat before, and it's a relatively easy, quick knit that just kind of plays two colors together. The yarn is Unplanned Peacock Studio Superwash Merino DK that I bought at SAF. So this is some of my SAF purchase. The dark green is called Dragon, and the light green is called Olive. This pattern is written for a worsted weight. I did this with a DK weight, so I did make a couple of minor modifications. I did this on a US 6 4 millimeter needle. Because I was knitting with DK weight, I made the large size instead of the medium, which is what I would have made if I'd used worsted weight. I did a ribbed brim instead of, the pattern has a folded brim, which I like, but I was worried a little bit with the DK that it might not be the right size, and two, I really just wanted to do the quicker ribbed brim. So the only other modification I made, besides using the large size for the DK weight yarn, is I did add about 4 extra rows of the green before I started the decreases. The pattern has you start the decreases shortly after this last thing, but just to add a little extra depth, I added about 4 extra rows of the green before I started the decreases. And I like my beanies to at least cover my ears. So this and I kind of have a big head, so I figure if it covers my ears, it will cover just about anybody's ears, and this just barely covers mine. But I had my husband try it on, who has a smaller head than I do, circumference-wise, and it well covered his ears. So, and all of these, the ends have been woven in, but I have not gotten a chance to wash any of these yet, so you'll see ends still dangling until I get them blocked. So yet another Christmas gift, and again, this is one you saw in progress last time. Again, has not been blocked yet. This is the Every Which Way cowl. And this is a pattern by Kristen Clement, who I mentioned introduced herself earlier and is one of the dyers for Queen City Yarn. This is done in Queen City Yarn's new DK base called Biddleville DK. I bought this yarn at Carolina Fiber Frolic this fall. The purple is, excuse me, I keep covering my mouth trying to show you what I'm doing here. The purple is eggplant, and what appears to be kind of a light gray, I think on the screen, is called Calories Don't Count on Your Birthday. You'll see that again in a minute with a little bit better picture of the colorway, but this is just a color work cowl that was just 2-color color work. It was nice and fits just nice around the neck. Again, I haven't blocked it yet, so it's wanting to roll up a little bit and everything at the edge, and there's ends hanging out. So and this is another Christmas gift. I won't say who for, just in case they happen to be watching. But so again, this is Every Which Way cowl by Kristen Clement. I knit this on US 5 3.75 millimeter needles. And because this did not use but a little bit really of the Calories Don't Count on Your Birthday, I used the leftover to make a hat. And this will give you, I'm playing with light again today, so trying to figure out the best place to put a light to show the colors. I think you can kind of see it is a light gray base color, but it's got flecks of purple all throughout, and Actually, there's little hints of red and blue, but mostly it comes out as a purple tint in the colorway. Put this one on so you can see the pattern a little bit better. This pattern is called Sweet Felicia. It is a pattern, I'm trying to hold my head so you can kind of see, it's kind of a opposing cables. It's cable stitch, but it's not a cable right up the line. This is a pattern by Jody Brown, who is one of the sisters that does the Grocery Girls. Again, I did this in the Queen City Biddleville DK in the Calories Don't Count on Your Birthday colorway. I did it on a US 6 4.0 millimeter needle. Excuse me. And again, this is another pattern that is written for worsted weight, but I did it in DK. So the pattern has both a fitted beanie, instructions for a fitted beanie, and instructions for a slouchy hat. So what I did is, using the DK, I used the numbers for the slouchy hat, and that gave me essentially a fitted beanie, since I was doing it with a smaller yarn. I prefer fitted beanies over slouchy hats, so unless someone specifically asks me to make a slouchy hat, all the hats I'm going to make are largely going to be fitted beanies. Let's see. So the other thing, sorry, talking away from the camera, I did finish my socks finally. I showed you these in progress last time. This is Knitspin Farm Corriedale sock yarn in the colorway Woolly Mammoth. And this is just my plain vanilla sock recipe: toe up, fish lips, kiss heel, knit the leg about 3 inches, and do some ribbing. That's it. I don't like my legs and my socks to come too high up my leg, because primarily they then tend to fall down and bunch around my ankle, and so I'd rather them not start out any higher than they're going to stay to begin with. So I knit these on a US 0 2.0 millimeter needle, which is pretty much what I do all of my plain vanilla socks on with regular sock weight yarn. So so I did finish those. But I just finished those last night, so I have not yet started on any of the cranked socks that I showed y'all last week. But hopefully next time I'll have at least gotten 1 pair of those done. So the only other thing I really have to show you is I did finish a couple more dishcloths for Christmas for the neighbors, and I thought I'd show you these because I've switched colorways. So instead of the red green variegated, I've moved on to some just green ones. This is Knit Picks Dishy in the Caterpillar colorway, and I knit these on a US 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter needle. I have now done 11 Christmas dishcloths for neighbors, and I need to do at least 16, so just have 5 more to do. And then the other thing I did finish that I can't show you yet is I did a test knit for the knit pattern for the craft along for Carolina Fiber Fest in March. So hopefully that we plan for that pattern to be released in early January, and once that happens, I'll be able to show you that finished object at that point. So that is all for verdicts. I don't have a lot to show you for courting session, but I do have a couple things I wanted to show. The first is another Christmas knit, and you have seen this in progress before. I have almost finished the Baby Latte, or excuse me, it's the Latte Coat by Lisa Chimery. And I have finished the coat part. Now this is going to be really hard to show because what I haven't done is gotten the buttons yet to put the buttons on. And once I get those, and then I need to block it, and then I still need to add the pockets on the front. But I need to block it before I add the pockets. And I would like to have the buttons on before I block it so that I can be sure that I'm laying it flat and overlapping the front the way that it should go. So it is a hooded coat. And I'm trying to... It's wanting to curl up and everything because it has not been blocked. So you can kind of see just a little hooded coat. This is for my youngest grandson, Alden, who is about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half old. So I made the 2T to 3T size, but I actually did the length, the extra inch of length that the 4T size called for, just because kids tend to go up before they grow out, so I figured that would give him, and I also made the sleeves the length of the 4T size. But what I'm trying to show, and it's hard to show, there you go, maybe a little bit, is the basket weave border that I've added. Last time I had the body done, but not the sleeves, so I've added the sleeves. And I have picked up knit all around the basket weave border that goes up the sides and all around the hood. So you can see now the hood is much deeper than it was before. Last time I showed you it was like right here. So, and you still can't see, I did a little herringbone. Well, you can kind of see. The pattern just has a raglan increase there. I did a little herringbone pattern that I found in somebody else's pattern notes that I thought would just add a nice little touch. It's hard to see in this really dark yarn, but it didn't take that much extra effort. So, and I thought it kind of went well with the basket weave around the edge. So again, all I have left to do with that, I've got to buy the buttons. I don't have, I went through my button stash and don't have anything appropriate that I have 4 of. So I need to go this week and try to find some buttons for it. And once I do that, then I will wet block it, and then I will put on the pockets. The pockets are the kind where you pick up stitches on the bottom of the pocket, knit up, and then tack down the sides. So I need in order to figure out exactly how wide and deep everything I want the pocket, I want the body to be blocked, so I can have a realistic idea of how much space it's gonna take up. So that is close to finished for Christmas. Oh, and I didn't mention, I am knitting this in Barocco Vintage Chunky in the charcoal colorway. The body is done on a US 10 6mm needle. The basket weave is done on a US 10.5 6.5mm needle. And I have this in my Fat Squirrel library card bag. And the only other work in progress I'm going to show you that I haven't shown, whoops, knocking my lamp. I've shown you before, but I haven't shown you in a while. Sorry, I'm losing my needles. Is my sock yarn blanket. And I want to show you the squares I've done since I last showed it to you, because I plan to do something with it in December that I'll talk about in just a minute. So, just briefly, I don't know what I probably don't remember what most of these yarns are. So, the ones with the stitch markers on them are the ones I've done since I last showed them to you. That's a Sucre miniature. That's a Sucre miniature. What does that one say? I knit so I don't kill people. That one just has a little sheep on it. Another Sucre miniature. That's just a little beaded dragonfly that I made. That's Sucre miniature, and I know I got that one at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year, I think. This one I got, I can't remember. I think I either bought it off Fibercrafty or it came with something I ordered on Fibercrafty. I think I bought it off Fibercrafty. And this is a Sucre miniature. This was the Needles Up stitch marker they gave away. The shirt Needles Up. I do know that yarn is it was Miss Babs. If you ever go to a show where Miss Babs is, she always on the outside of her booth hanging has little samples of her various yarns. And I have discovered that they are just enough to do one of these squares. So usually I go by earlier on and grab if she's got a new base or something that I want to try out. And that's the purpose of the samples, is so you can try her different bases, because they're in varying colorways. But I always go by towards the end of the show after everybody's kind of picked what they want to sample, so I'm not depriving anybody from actually sampling, and grab a few if she's got, you know, colors, like particularly colors that I would not normally buy or have leftovers of. Like, you know, I don't knit a lot of like lime greens and oranges and reds and stuff like that. So if I only went based on my leftovers, this blanket would be totally lacking those colors for the most part. So a lot of times at the end of shows, what she's at, I'll go by, and if she's got any of those left over, I'll grab 3 or 4 just in colors that I might not otherwise buy. But this one obviously is in my color, but this was her Estrelita base, I think she calls it, with the silver sparkle, and I just loved that color and had to have it. So I do know what that one is. That one, just another, actually I think my friend Peggy made me that stitch marker. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that I've put on since I last showed it to you. I haven't really put a lot of concerted effort into it recently, just one here or there. But the reason I wanted to show you that now, even though it's just been 11, is because I did my one advent calendar, or succumbed to one advent calendar for this year. I bought the Suburban Stitcher advent calendar, and it has arrived a week or so ago. And I am resisting the urge to open them all and look at all of them now. Did peek at days 1 and 2 because I couldn't stand it, but so far I've only peeked at days 1 and 2, but I stuck them back in their little envelopes. My plan is, I couldn't figure out, I haven't seen any of the advent patterns that I'm just in love with or think I really want to do. So I think what I'm going to do, the Suburban Stitcher Advent is 24 mini skeins of 20 grams, and then 1 full-size skein that's for Christmas Day. So what I plan to do is open one of the mini skeins every day and put a square in this blanket. Now I need like 3 grams for a square in this blanket, 3 or 4 grams. So there will still be a decent size mini left over of each one, that after I've seen each color, I can decide if I want to, you know, do scrappy hats or socks or something, or if I see a pattern that once I see all the colors and want to play with, I can do. Or I may just use them on my other scrap blankets. You know, I haven't decided yet, but I did decide that I want at least 1 square on this blanket. So my goal in December is every day to do 1 square on this blanket. So at the end of the month, I'll have done 24 squares. And then the full skein that I get on Christmas Day, which honestly I probably won't wait till Christmas Day to open. I'll probably open it December 1st. We'll just probably go into stash or get used for something else. So that's my plan, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and show you that, so I could take those markers off so that I could mark the ones that I do with the mini skeins with the Advent calendar in December, and show those to you after Christmas. So that is all for Quarters in Session. I do have a couple of other whips in progress, but I have not done anything on any of them. The only other whip that has been started that needs to be finished for Christmas is the chipmunk that I'm making for my grandson Alden to go with the Henry's Hat book that I got him. So you will hopefully see that in the next couple weeks. And then I have, in pre-trial proceedings, I actually have some more Christmas stuff that I'm going to try to get done between now and Christmas. I have some more hats to make, about 5 more hats to make, 4 of which are kid-size hats. So those should be relatively easy to knock out. I have 5 more dishcloths to make, and then I need to finish the chipmunk. If all that happens before Christmas, I also may make 2 more small crocheted little toys for my 2 other grandchildren if I have time. So we'll see about that. Excuse me. So the only other thing that I have to kind of show is I'm adding a new segment, and this will be a sporadic segment, hopefully, but this one is called Dismissal. As part of this time of year, I really start thinking about the next year and what my plans are, and I usually set some knitting goals, and I'll talk more about whatever knitting goals I set after the holidays, when I've actually kind of nailed that down. But as part of that, I'm looking through the projects I have on the needles and that I haven't worked on in a while, or and decide, whether or not that's something I want to keep going. And for the most part, everything I have on the needles that is languishing is either my scrap blankets, which are long-term projects anyway and going to be sporadic, or the about 3 other projects I have on the needles, all of which got cast on within the past few months. I just haven't focused on them recently because of my Christmas knitting, with one exception. I started, let me grab it, about September of last year. I started a boxy by Ho Ho by Joji Locatelli. And I started it, I had bought this yarn at Black Mountain Yarn Shop, I think in fall of 2016, because I know I bought it at when it was open for us for Carolina Fiber Frolic. So it had to have been fall of 2016 I bought this yarn. And I bought it intentionally to make a boxy because several people that weekend had worn boxies, the fingering weight boxies. And I loved it, and ideally I would love to have a boxy. This yarn will make a beautiful boxy. But I bought it in November of 2016. I did not cast it on until September of 2017. And quite honestly, I cast it on thinking, oh, I bought this yarn last year. I really should start this before the next fall frolic in November. So I bought it. I started it and, knit a few inches, and then kind of set it aside. And then a couple months later, knit a few more inches. And honestly, I don't think I've touched it since like maybe January of this year. I had knit all in all about 11 inches of it. And while I still think it would make a beautiful boxy, I still love the yarn. The reality is it's probably just not going to happen anytime soon. So I am frogging it, and I'm in the process of frogging it because I had, like I said, I'd knit about 11 inches, and a boxy is quite a few inches around. Before I got done, I thought I would just show you. The yarn is Madeline Tosh Sock in the black velvet colorway, which is a gray with this kind of berry-ish. It's not really burgundy because it's more berry, and it's beautiful. I love it, and I have, I think, 5 skeins of this, and it is going to make a beautiful sweater at some point when I have more brain space to put into it. But at this point, I just don't think, there's my swatch I did, so you can see a little better. At this point, I just don't think it's going to happen right now, and quite honestly, since it's been so long since I've worked on it, I mean, it's not like I don't know where I am, right? I'm knitting stockinette around and around and around and around. But, over time, your gauge changes depending on your mood and things like that, and I just, it's bothering me that it's sitting there and not getting worked on, but I don't really have an inclination to work on it, so I'm ripping it out. Right now I'm just rolling the yarn up into ball as I pull it out, hopefully after the first of the year, but in reality, maybe when I want to use the yarn, I will skein it back up and wash it to get all the kinks out of it, and everything before I use it again in something else. But so that is something I'm clearing out in preparation for looking at 2019 and getting things back on track. And as of right now, it looks like that's the only thing that I'm planning to frog, and we will see what happens with that. And like I said, I'll talk with you a little bit more probably after Christmas about my 2019 goals and things like that. So I did want to show you one thing that I got in the mail that is not yarn, but I thought it was so cute I had to show it to you. This is a little zipper pouch, and it is from the Prickly Owl on Etsy, and I'm not sure, I think maybe it was the Grocery Girls podcast showed this, but I'm not 100% sure. I just thought it was so adorable. This is hand stamped, and I'm not sure, this is knit, and you can definitely feel it is yarn. I'm not clear though, but there's fabric, there's canvas behind it, and So I'm not sure, because I don't want to tear it apart to see if she knit this and attached it over the canvas, or if it's actually a fabric she bought, like something that she bought that she did. But because it doesn't look hand knit. In other words, because of the type of yarn it is, I'm not sure that it's hand knit. So I have a feeling it's either something she bought and put over the canvas, or something that she bought that is like this, that with the canvas, but I'm not sure. But anyway, and it's lined with a light blue, and there's the prickly owl. And it has the cutest little zipper pull, which is a little hand knit hat. And I do know that this is hand knit because on her website she says her mom makes these little hats for the thing. So, but and it came, the packaging on it was adorable. Adorable. I am a sucker for people that do their packaging creatively. So obviously she makes her own packaging. She is, aware of, I guess, recycling and things like that. So she had taken basically brown paper and wrapped around, and with some tape. It was a sturdy package. It had a cute little cardboard tag sticking out that had her logo on it. And then my favorite was the return address, and my address was all written very, not in calligraphy, but very creatively and graphically and handwritten in, cool fonts and that sort of stuff. And she obviously takes time to create her packaging and make it attractive. And inside there was a little paper envelope, just a paper bag, one of those little flat bags that had her logo again on it, or just had a little owl on it. And had some of her cards and stuff in it. It was just very nice, and obviously she put some effort into her packaging and making it attractive, and I appreciate that. So, anyway, so I just thought this was adorable. It's just big enough really to be a large Notions pouch. It probably is not big enough for a knitting project. She does have some bigger bags, but this was the pattern that I just really loved, so that's the size I bought. But anyway, I did want to show you that one little thing. So I'm sticking this in here because I forgot to show you the shirt that I'm wearing today. And this is a t-shirt that I bought at SAF, and I just thought it was cute, so I wanted to show you. It says Sheep Happens, and you can see the little yarn ball coming out of his rear, which, juvenile humor, but I thought it was cute. So forgot to show you that and just wanted to stick that in. I think that's it. I am going to try to podcast at least one more time between now and Christmas. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be, as I pretty much have things going on every weekend between now and Christmas. So it might have to be either one evening that I make time to do it, or if nothing else, it might be as I finish some Christmas projects, I may do some short videos just to show you those, just on the chance that I don't have a chance to podcast before Christmas and those get gone and given as gifts, so you'll at least have a little bit a view of those. As always, I do keep project pages on Ravelry. Right now, some of my finished objects do not have pictures yet, and that is just because I usually don't take those pictures till after I've blocked it, and a lot of the hats and stuff just haven't been washed yet. So as soon as they get washed, those pictures will get taken and will be up. But any information on the yarn that I used and the needle size I used, and the other thing I do is I do actually weigh my yarn and my finished projects and try to give you as close as possible an accurate account of the yardage that I actually use. So nothing annoys me more than to see somebody who did a sweater and used all 5, they had 5 skeins, they used all 5 skeins, and I have no, I don't know, no indication whether did they really use all 5 skeins or they used 4.5, So I actually try to, unless I am left with less than 5 grams, I will always weigh my yarn and try to give you an accurate accounting of exactly how much of a skein I used, or partial skeins, or full skein, 3.5 skeins or whatever, so that you can get yardage estimates from my projects. So anyway, so I think that's all. If by chance I do not get back before Christmas and you celebrate Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. But I hope I will see you again before then. And in the meantime, hope you have a great time with your knitting and enjoy some family time over the next month or so. And I'll talk with y'all later. Bye, y'all.